Ooh. All right. Huh. Oh boy. This setup was trickier. I got actually 3D printed. We should go in for a close up here. I 3D printed this this boom mic arm, some hair stands, and then this thing. It's not quite as threaded on there as I'd like, but it's good. We obviously are still dealing with some cables and stuff. One thing that was a common discussion last week was that it would be nice to have like an overhead camera, right? So it'll be a little tricky because I don't have it exactly oriented. There you go. But this way, then we'll be able to get in and see like nitty gritty detail. And then this a little bit. This was prototype 1, right? It's meant to take some sort of like a bolt in the back here to put there, and then you can thread it on 5/8 like microphone adapters. So yeah, hope everyone is doing well. I this evening, my kids, right? We got the news that we knew the news. Sorry, that's probably obnoxious. We got the news earlier today. We decided to break it to them tonight that school for Utah will be a soft closure for the rest of the school year. So that was rough. That was rough to hear. But I don't know. It's kind of this weird. Like we're all going through things right now. It's just interesting to see how it hits you. Like some days I'll just be like, well, okay, it's fine. And other days I'll just be like, man, this is frustrating. This is not how I wanted to spend my time. Or like, man, I just wish I could. I wish I could go to the store and buy a can of primer, right? Spray paint primer, and wish I could do so without feeling like, there was some degree of like putting my world at risk or whatever just to like just go get some spray paint. I'm ordering things online where I can, trying to shop in mom and pop shops and order online where I can. But even then, obviously, it's spotty. So looks like. Ooh, that sounds better. I don't love wearing these headphones. Pardon me while I adjust this madness here. There we go. I don't know that I love wearing the headphones during all this, but it does help me to make sure that, because if I'm like way over here versus way over here, there's a sound quality difference. So starting the stream late tonight. I apologize for all you thousands of viewers at home. My personal real goal for tonight is to, at the ripe young age of 36, not say right or like as much as I do. So that is going to be my personal challenge for tonight. We're going to be working on this hotness. This was basically this is like printable filter kind of things. To me, the scientific community is still, if you know of good resources on what filtration devices to use, please let me know. I would love to learn more about it. I keep seeing that as far as like types of filters and and what fabrics to use. Some of them say even a cotton t-shirt's better than nothing, and other things say no, it should be one of these more pro-rated kind of things. I don't know. In my search for understanding the 3D printed community a bit better, I did print this guy. Right, this is the Immortan Joe. I'm actually going to let me add a browser. Nope, just kidding. Pro guy Neil here. We're going to guessing window capture. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, sweet. So just to like something like that. Right. So let me show you here for inspiration. This mask comes from the delightful and ever snuggly Immortan Joe, a Mad Max Fury Road. I mean, he is the Mad Max Fury Road villain, and funny enough, he's played by the gentleman who played he played the villain on the first Mad Max movie. Some background, right? Hugh Keays-Byrne, I believe. He did a pretty good job. I love reading stories about the first Mad Max movie because they basically like George Miller, right? Immortan Joe, Fury Road, right? Good old George Miller. He did the first Mad Max movie, and I think they had $3,000 to spend on costume budget, and that was basically it. And then they found a local biker gang and said, hey, we'll pay you in beer if you come and do this. So I have really appreciated learning more about George Miller et al., right? All the people who went into creating Mad Max, because it's helped me to really appreciate that you could tell a story and maybe not sweat having the biggest budget. And to me, that's kind of the cool thing about 3D printing, right? If we go here, get a bigger view of this. 3D printing to me opens up the opportunity to be able to make props and interesting things like this, which again, obviously this is somebody else's intellectual property. You know, you're not going to make an Immortan Joe 2. He might make a fan film or something. And let's see if I can get up really close. You can see some places where, for whatever reason, there is some like nasty layer lines that kind of like intersected this whole layer. It took about 2 days to print this, and so I'm loath to just throw it out and say forget it. I tried to use that spot filler putty that I used last time to fill in the gaps, but at least for tonight, let's nope. Window capture, add existing window capture, boom. So we're going to go back here and we're going to find a nice picture here. right? Something high contrasty, size large. No. I did learn that apparently these teeth were meant to be, because again, I don't know if they're real, like if they actually use real teeth in the making thereof. But obviously we're sharing the studio with other shows such as Neil Oler IRL. We're going to shrink that down. So that's our inspiration. The apparently these were meant to be horse teeth, right? And it's like this rebreather thing. I mean, I don't know. For all you folks at home, you may be like watching that and going like, yep, know it already. I certainly do not claim to be the ultimate Mad Max fan, but I definitely like it. So to start us off, I'm actually noticing this thing is not as smooth as I would like. So I'm going to take some sandpaper, test the grit. Yeah, so that's maybe 842 grit. No, I think it's about 1,000. And the only reason why I know that is because I know it. So this will just help knock down some of like the fluff and crud that sneaks on there when you're painting with spray paint. It can also help to smooth up or like remove a little bit of shine or add a little bit of shine depending on, obviously the grit that you apply it at. This is definitely something I would not worry about doing on a Dungeons and Dragons miniature. I find it easier to just assume that you're going to have some roughness to deal with, and to just kind of like almost include or bake in, if you will, the roughness in some of these things. That's I suppose why the idea of making post-apocalyptic props and memorabilia appeals to me, because you don't have to worry about it having like inauthentic bumps and dings, just because everything looks like it's got bumps and dings on it, right? Another one that comes to mind, there was a fan film, right? So another great post-apocalyptic item was the Fallout Nuka Break series, and just like some small-time filmmakers, and they made just a kind of a test pilot thing, and then got enough support that they were able to make 2 seasons, and they even got some of the original writers of like the original video game that was based on to be in part of the show. Really cool stuff. They certainly did a great job with their effects, but the thing I loved is that they made YouTube videos detailing just about every single part of it that you could think of, and it was really great. Sneak in here with a sanding twig. These are a relatively new thing for me, but it's basically cut up like foam backed sanding sticks, and I kind of like them. I got a big variety pack thing because I wasn't exactly sure what grit or whatever I'd need. So obviously I could see finding one that you like and then kind of going with that from then on out. But definitely for getting in tight little corners where you need it just rigid enough to get the job done, but small enough to fit in the appropriate spot. Yeah, and you can see right there, we got some like crazy layer lines and stuff, right? We'll have to deal with that as we go on. So, speaking of, I did want to show you one thing, and this will be your random humor for the day. I saw this Kickstarter. The BabyFit Lite is a foldable hip seat. On one hand, let me make this bigger to make sure that we can really appreciate what's going on here. Right, this is a like seat that you mount on to your body. And it was funny because I showed my wife this, right? I tried to be very careful to not assume being, I mean, I realize this won't be everyone's relationship, but in our relationship, we went to having kids, and my wife stayed home. That was something she wanted. That was something that we worked out long before we ever had kids. And so I tried to be very careful about trying to just be like, well, based on my experience, these are the things for everyone. So part of me, I suppose, if this ends up being one of those things for you, but the first thing I thought when I saw that, I was like, what? Just like hold your baby. Why do you need a saddle that mounts on your hip? But, going like, okay, but that's my perspective. And so I showed my wife, and she was like, put your baby down. It made me laugh. Realize not everyone will have the same reaction. Cool if you do, cool if you don't. Just made me laugh. All right, so we got good old Immortan up here, and I'm kind of thinking if we go in here, we can see that there's a decent amount of oh nice, you can even see like there on the screen, right? So I'm thinking this has silver to be sort of a mounted thing. This is maybe like a brass or some sort of, I don't know, maybe leather or something. Obviously we have rivets or screws. Some of the places here, right? These down here look more rivet-like, but then we do have a flathead screw kind of situation here. And this, as you can tell, is obviously not perfectly, it's not perfect. Speaking of perfect, I wish I could adjust there we go. This is obviously not going to be absolutely spot on perfect for replication. His mask is much bigger, and if we'll go to the big scene here, right? You can see that, I don't know, that's not bad. The artist who did it certainly be commended. I have no idea how to do 3D sculpting. It's on my list of things to figure out, but boy howdy if I know how to do it. Let me. This might be some preview for some future things. Made a sandworm, then a creepy crawly hand thing. Yeah, so right now I just need the plate. Oh, gross. That plate looks like it's been used. All part of the show, folks. Put that over there. Then we have a nice plate to use. So I'm thinking that I want to do... This is always the tough part for me, because it's like, where do you start? Because judging by our options here, right, we're going to be looking for some yellowish brown on the teeth, but then up here this is a dark black or something like that, and then along this part is going to be silver. And so I'm trying to think of what would be most effective to paint first. I think we're looking at the black part right here, and then maybe a black wash in the teeth. So that's where... Yeah, that's just where I'm not sure. If it seems like this is perhaps a belabored point, I suppose it kind of is. But at the same time, I know that like half the battle with this stuff is just getting the right order. Son of a gun. I thought I had my... Here's, I brought every single color with me except for black. Yeah, so we got... Right, I've got various like metallic colors. And those really honestly do a great job with the metallics. Some gold. Yeah, like an antique bronze. That may be for like the nose kind of deal. I really am thinking that it's almost like a, yeah, like a burnt umber, right? But it's like washed, and this is part of that tricky thing, right? That it's imperfect around here, around like this, I guess what you might call like the gum line. Yeah, that's hilarious that I brought. I'm like checking my pockets and everything because I thought I had it. Maybe in Jan's coat. Nope. Well, that's cool. Whatever. We can always start with some of this burnt umber goodness. Let me get my paint brushes. I guess I do have this very dark zinc again that I used last time. Which actually may work to do a zinc and then have a wash. We can play around with that. Picking the right brush is also another one of these Another one of these delightfully tricky kind of things that I do not profess to have any sort of great grasp on. I thought I had another thing of burnt umber. Maybe out of luck. Maybe burnt orange and some zinc. I don't know if that's it. Probably need a darker brown. That's kind of the trick with this one. But we'll see. Then get our water here. Make sure we are in the zone. All right. Doing this like painting live kind of thing, I've often laughed to myself and thought, you know, what did Bob Ross, how did he feel about this? Right, how we feel about that? I think that's looking pretty good. Obviously, it's not going to work for all of this, but it gives us. It's meant to give kind of this like almost dried flesh kind of look to it, which I know is delightful, because we'll go this way, and then we'll kind of fade it in with what looks like kind of the same thing, and then it looks almost like the highlights are painted a bit on the bottom, right? So yeah, it's almost like I want some brown, and then once we get in here with brown, then we're going to do a bit of the zinc. And I'm just trying to get in here and get some of this, almost like this horse teeth gingivitis kind of stuff going on. This will, in between the teeth, will be covered later on with black. And we will definitely work on that. Sorry, making sure I'm getting the live stream going. Don't want to miss any chat options. Something actually I was thinking about as far as live stream stuff goes. I was wondering if I should do this on Twitch. Like, I was doing this on YouTube because that's, I wouldn't say that that's what I know, but it's kind of where I'm at. I've got a channel that, you know, I made a while ago, and I've kind of hung on to it for a while, and so I'm somewhat hesitant to lose it. And you know, I wonder if I'm going to regret accidentally going on these teeth with this brown, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. Try to keep it. It's not the end of the world to have it go there, but it will mean that I'll have to cover it up a bit more in the future, right? With some other touch-up work, and it seems like if you can if you can keep your mistakes localized and not going too wild, seems like that's more optimal, right? One of the big secrets for me was realizing that nobody gets a great result, right, kind of out of the box, out of the bag. And I mean, I heard multiple people that, I follow on YouTube. I really enjoyed their work. I think they're incredibly talented people. I believe it was Miniac, a guy who paints miniatures. And I believe he said that painting, and he was obviously referring to painting miniatures, but I feel like it very much applies to probably any creative endeavor you're doing. He said something along the lines of, you're going to get to like the 95th percentile point and you're going to hate it and think you've like made a mistake and it looks terrible. And I found that so freeing, I guess. Just realizing that, again, see, I'm saying again is one of my filler words. It's cool to realize that even people that you admire make mistakes, right? And have that like almost done and like feeling, oh man, I've messed this all up and it looks terrible. That's half the fun of these projects, is to realize that a lot of this it's the cumulative effect. It's not, masterpieces aren't created in a single brushstroke. They're the accumulation of millions of brushstrokes, right? Thousands of brushstrokes, tons of effort and work. And that is a lesson I feel I keep coming back to, and it's really, for whatever reason, that's really hard for me to learn. I think when I was 14, I started off playing bass guitar because there was a guy in my local youth group from church, and he was like, hey, we're going to start a band. I'm learning how to play guitar, and this other guy can be drums, and then you play bass guitar. And at the time I was just like, cool. What's bass guitar? and he said, it's the bigger one, right? It's the guitar with the thicker strings. And what did I know? Just going like, okay, cool. Seems, I don't think the process was something as like direct as like, yeah, gonna get them honeys. That's why I'm playing bass guitar. But it's funny to think back now and be like, why did I start playing bass guitar? I don't honestly think I had much of a reason, other than somebody that I thought was cool seemed like he wanted me to to participate in a thing with him. And I was like, okay, it'll get me out. So yeah, let's do this thing. And I remember starting bass guitar and going through the lessons. I had a very nice and patient teacher. He tried to teach me the scales, and I was just not into it because I didn't see the point of them. I said, okay. I mean, cool. I know you say like do re mi fa sol la ti do, and like, okay, like this is all good stuff. It's useful, fine. But I wanted to learn, teach me a Smashing Pumpkins song, teach me how to play like the song I'm hearing on the radio or whatever. And he obliged me. And after a while, I think we basically kind of said, Neil's not dedicating himself to this as much as maybe he needs to. Maybe we're going to save our money, or maybe it's I think maybe, I don't know, maybe dude got sick or something. I honestly can't remember. And again, he was a very nice guy. Liked him, and I'd love to be able to go back now and say like, hey buddy, I actually stuck with guitar, and now I play more guitar, right, 6-string guitar than bass guitar, but I totally understand that there's this giant world of scales and chords, and I still have yet to really figure out how they go together. In a lot of ways, I'm still playing very much by ear, kind of a hack that way. But I've seen here and there glimpses of how these artists break things down. And so similarly back to painting, right? Painting miniatures, painting props. I come into it and I think, okay, just in like one fell swoop, I'm going to make this thing look like this thing, right? And I mean, first of all, that is probably actually real metal. Well, in prop making, I think they make two, right? They make one that is probably made out of foam rubber that is lighter, and that's probably the prop piece that an actor will wear or use, right? Guns and things like that when you're far away. And if you get a close-up thing, that's when they'll bring in the real-looking stuff. Just because real-looking prop pieces are perhaps more fragile, or they're heavy, or there's other concerns that way. But this is George Miller's fourth Mad Max movie, right? He spent like a decade storyboarding this thing and working on it. Dude also made some money directing, the Dancing Penguin movie, Happy Feet, and some stuff like that. And so by the time he got into this, if he said, here's my vision, here's my comic book buddy who's drawn this like awesome Immortan Joe thing, right? Of course people are going to go, okay, cool. If that mask cost $50,000, I mean, I'm making this up, right? I have no idea. But if it costs that much, who cares, right? That's big George Miller at that point. That's why I think it's so important to recognize that these great artistic endeavors, right? These great artists, they all start the same place that you and I start from, right? They all start from having the $3,000 costume budget, and that's it, and paying the rest of the actors in beer, right? They all start with I gotta paint this thing, and I don't really love how it looks. Yup. Okay. So what you gonna do about it? It's a process, and it's a gradual. It is a gradual process, and anything I can do to remind myself of that, I really enjoy. This is where if I were cooler, I would, well, actually I do have a fan down here. Haha. It is also a heater, but I'm loath to put heat on this because it is made from PLA, or polylactic acid, and that will melt with like blow dryer temperatures. Melt. It won't melt, but it will deform a bit. And we just need it like dry enough to the touch that we can go over it with a different color and get something. Yeah, so this is where it gets kind of fun, but also nerve-wracking. This is where, like, I was just talking to a friend of mine today. He's like a creative director level, like just super genius when it comes to like layouts and stuff. I'm going to kind of dry brush this on a little bit. Yeah, that'll kind of work. That'll work. So I was talking to him about like color theory and stuff, because he also has been painting a really cool Fallout New Vegas themed thing, right? The Fallout New Vegas sign that is kind of a post-apocalyptic remix of the famous Las Vegas sign. And I was talking to him about like color science and just knowing how to mix stuff together. And I was highly impressed that he got like the colors he did with the colors he started out with. Not because I thought he'd fail or something. I honestly had every expectation to do really well. It was just more, I just looked at it and said, I mean, it looked like he got like really nice authentic rust and everything from something that looked like it was like going to be like apple green and like orange and stuff. I'm just like, how the devil did you get such like nifty looking stuff when like I can't seem to do that. So it was kind of funny. I don't know how this is going. I mean, it's definitely kind of adding some in between kind of tones, and that is, I think, one of the bigger secrets that I have seen about painting, is that by adding similar but separate colors, you end up kind of carving out in a uneven way kind of the color space, and that generally leads to much more effective painting kind of stuff. Because if you think about it, that's mainly how our eyes see, right? Is that we don't see in solid hues, right? Based on how the light is playing with things, we have more or less, especially this Miniac guy gets into talking about something called zenithal highlights, which at first I was like, wow, is that a new StarCraft race? But basically like meaning zenith, or meaning in the Z direction. And so it's this idea that as you travel up a model, right, that you may start with dark colors down here and then move up to lighter colors at like the face of a model, so that you can naturally direct the eyes to the face of the model. So yeah, that's not terrible. Certainly uneven. It's always when I paint like this that I remind myself. Remember, I have yet to get. I really want a wet palette. It's basically just like a glorified plastic box and a sponge, but you're able to get much clearer. Clear. You're able to keep your paint wet for much longer, and yeah, that seems pretty decent. I am going to do for all you one people streaming out there. Thank you for being here, by the way, whoever you are. Thank you. Please feel free to chat. That would be delightful. I'll take your questions, comments, concerns, and otherwise introspective thoughts. Let me go get my black paint. I will be right back. Whew. Time is definitely flying, my friends. I didn't realize we'd been going for 45 minutes. It is definitely funny to do these live streams. Like I've told everyone before, I don't I don't know how useful it is for you guys, but I learn something every time I do it. And I really enjoy feeling like I'm creating something and getting to share it with the world. I think I've struggled with that idea for a long time because I worried that it would somehow come across as arrogant. I don't even know how to explain it, how to describe it. But I've tried to adopt more of the idea of I'm not doing this because I think I'm, better than other people or things like that. I don't know about that. But it's more just because, like, if you're going to create something to share with people, that's been one of my favorite things in the past, to be able to appreciate from other people. Like I talked about Miniac and they're great. I follow a whole host of interesting characters on YouTube. Everyone from, like, I don't know, like gun gear reviews, and sometimes they'll make like shorts and interesting pieces that are demonstrating firearms out of history and things like that, all the way to miniature painters and bushcrafters, things, things of that nature. And I've just really enjoyed that they shared their thoughts, their personality. And I've looked at that and thought, like, I want to do that too. I don't know if you could call that like wanting to be an entertainer. Yeah, I don't know about this. But definitely that, like, share your personality with the world thing. There are many different kinds of people, and occasionally it dawns on me that my personality is appreciated by somebody, that it's helped them have a better day. And honestly, I don't know of any things that make me feel happier than to help somebody feel like they are recognized, they are appreciated, they are valued, and so to feel that way myself, that's a it's a really kind of powerful experience. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny, on camera I actually don't mind it as much. It's like I'm trying to... The idea here with the black is that we're trying to emphasize depth, right? We're trying to show that underneath the teeth here, is a... Sorry, let me... I forgot to turn the fan off. Underneath the teeth here is very much a dark setting, right? Dark background for these here teeth. And I think we're coming along. But the trick, I'll definitely have to touch these up afterwards. Right, because we got these little like spider webbing kind of pieces over there. But I don't know, I think all things considered, I was gonna have to like touch him up anyhow. And then we'll have to go over the base of this once more with some of this brown. And obviously I'm painting a mask type thing here. But I found that these techniques of kind of trying to go with like the lowest spots first and then working your way back up, I've found these to be pretty helpful and pretty universally applicable. I think, again, part of what I enjoy about painting these kind of things is the kind of baked in irregularities to the experience. Meaning that they don't have to be perfect. Because there's a grittiness, right? A realism that comes when you have something. Yeah, that's actually not too bad, right? We got some places right there, right? Clearly, we'll have to like touch up. Let's get a little closer. Right there and stuff that we'll have to go over. But we're also gonna have to do that for this brown. You can see, let me bring back Owen Morton here. You can see that he's got clearly some horse teeth dental plaque here. So again, it's probably not going to matter as much as I might worry right now. Yeah, I actually think, we're kind of on a roll here. Let's, ooh, didn't wash my brown out. Womp womp. Let's actually take a tackle with the silver part up here, right? Look in my bag of tricks. We got the sterling silver, and we got tin. Something tells me tin might be more along the lines of what we want. Because, yeah, I mean, we've got this, like, antique gold, but I think that'll be, yeah, antique gold, so I think those will probably be too bright for what we're looking for, right? These, like, metallic gold, like, they're interesting. I'm thinking for this part here, we may do that. We may have to go over it with a bit of brown, and I still got a bit of brown there. Yeah, I think that'll work. So you see what I'm seeing, right? The other thing is that if you go too bright on this stuff, it's not hard to tone it down. It's much easier to go from a lighter shade of pale and then to get darker. And you can see right here that because we've got this cream primed undertone, we're going to have to go, we're going to have to do like 2 or 3 layers of this stuff, which is okay. It's okay. I kind of assumed that this would not be something that just went on one layer and you're done, because of the nature of this paint. You kind of have to go multiple passes. That's okay. That's what we're all about. Sorry. Oh man, my biggest fear is that I'm gonna watch back the stream. I'll have streamed for like 45 minutes or something with the thing off. So I'm just over here on the small view talking and holding something and painting, and then in the large view, everyone's going, "Yeah, buddy, we can't see anything you're doing." You and me both, friend. Yeah, we'll go around and paint towards the back here because give it some overlap. I also just realized that the one concurrent viewer, it may be me, and that's pretty funny because gotta start with yourself. If you are not willing to watch your own video, then why the devil would anyone else watch it? It's a fair question. It's a fair question. And it gets a little tricky over here where it doesn't seem like it has very clear defined edges. Well, I guess it does. It's just not as defined as I'd like them to be. And I'm probably also realizing the last time I used this metallic paint, I had a very gray primer, and so going metallic on it was not difficult. Whereas this is like doing some weird perloid thing, and it is. I will fully admit this is not how I saw it going. It is only the first like coat or first pass, so again I'm I'm not declaring this a failure or anything. It's just interesting to and see, and I went over a bit too much there. Yeah, you can see it really well on camera. So I'll have to go back over that, which no problemo. Yeah, I think we'll be able to build it up just fine, because it's that went on a little thicker on the edge and dried it up there. And so even just going back over it just this way, that there's some good stuff going on. All right. Pardon me 1 second while I let that dry. I believe I have a kiddo who is looking to get a hug and a kiss before she goes off to bed. So give me 1 second, and then we'll even like tilt this right here so you can see and appreciate the progress thus far. There you go. Yeah. Sounds good. Give me a hug. Love you.
Kiss.
See you later. All right. All right. So I need a bit more of this stuff. You know, yeah. We'll just keep going with this. I thought about going with some like gray paint over it. You know, in here we're gonna run it past the little fan here, which I won't bring above the table because then it'll like get in the mic, be horrendously loud. I am going to check on this guy and make sure that, yeah, there you go. I'm so sorry. That probably was not as in focus as we wanted, because we want to be able to like focus up here, and then we want to be able to focus down here. The joys of using iPhones as cameras, which I have to say I invested in these apps, so you know that cost me a good $10 of apps right there. So I guess you could say things are getting pretty serious. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. And thankfully, because this has kind of this like its own natural pitting, may not be the right term for it, but it's certainly because it's brushed on, it has its own kind of natural unevenness. I am able to basically get a very nice kind of weathered metal look, right? This is a mask that's been on some war raids. It's gone out carousing with the war boys on the weekend, riding the Fury Road, shiny and chrome. Yeah, this is the part of painting that I really rather enjoy, right? Once you've kind of like settled on the what to do part, and you just get to settle into just make the aesthetics happen. Just you're painting, you got the plan, you're executing on the plan. The plan's at least going well enough that you're not going, oh no, that looks like garbage. Right, and it's so I do computer programming for work. I enjoy it well enough. I think at this point that there are some days where it definitely like I'm going, this is a job. At first, I thought I was a bad engineer because I didn't like go home and code stuff for fun on the weekends. I rather read a book, play a video game, wrestle my kids, watch TV. I mean, there are lots of things, right? My interests are always changing. And at first, I thought, oh no, like I must be a bad engineer or bad software guy. And I realized, no, that's human, right? We shift in interests, and there's nothing abnormal or abhorrent about that. And if anything, I would say that there's something noble about someone sticking with a career, and of course changing what you can, right? I'm not saying like you hate your dead end job, but like don't you dare leave it. Like no, of course you gotta move, you gotta grow, you gotta strive, right? But I'm just saying that there's something interesting about painting for me, that it's a very tangible art form, and because it is so tangible, I find that it gives me a different kind of satisfaction from my day job. Day job is very satisfying when you finally solve some problem that has been vexing you for for a long time. But when you get to sit down and just paint on something, I can definitely see why Bob Ross got to be big at what he was doing, but also why he enjoyed it so much, right? Because he got to monetize, I guess, if you will, his love for catharsis, and I think that's great. Yeah, so I can definitely tell we're going to need more black on the middle here. I'm going to try to go around just the edge, kind of almost create this like transition that I know once I put more black in there, it will get kind of covered up again, but it'll hopefully kind of blend in to kind of be a shadow that goes from the nose, with this like weird little like filter pit thing. And yeah, I can already tell you that needs to be much darker. And it's funny that this paint, if you catch it at like the wrong angle, it just looks like some like watered down milky gray sitting on top of here, and it just looks really bad. But then if you kind of step back and look at it, right, let's look at it in the camera, right, it's like, oh dang, that's certainly like, that looks metallic enough, right? And again, this is one of those interesting artistic points that I think I had to learn, is that the contrast here between shiny and then something matte, right, helps these things pop out and allows you to kind of direct the viewer's gaze in a way that you kind of control a bit. And I think that's, when used sparingly, I guess, if you will, that can be some really interesting and tasty artistic direction. I'm going to resist. Let's see. I guess actually these parts down here. Ooh, yeah. These parts down here are also silver, or this pewter color, whatever we're calling this thing. This is going to get a little trickier because this doesn't have as many. This is also has a bit of brown underneath it, so hopefully that'll blend into the wasteland weathering. Of course, I can't rest my hand on anything. That's tricky. And I think we'll have to do the same thing here. Right, paint a little bit, come back to it. It's these edges that these edges are going to be tricky because we want to cover them, but we don't want to run a ton over into the brown. But I think we're getting it. Of course, now that I said that, I'm going to jinx myself, and it's going to be. I don't know. That actually went pretty well. Let's turn it over and get the other side. This may be just as tricky. Messed up a little bit there. The reason why I forget about that that fan going is that I'm in a basement, and so that heater is generally when I'm down here, it's always running at least some part of the time. And which, I don't know, I was always against like space heaters because I was just thinking, those things are, they're just toasters with a fan. That seems wildly inefficient. But then it occurred to me, I'm just in like a relatively small room here, so if I don't have to, obviously we have the heater hooked up to the basement, but there are a lot of rooms that aren't being used at this time. A lot of rooms. That makes it sound like I live in like, a mansion or something. Nay. But there's enough that the point still stands. It's just not as bougie, I suppose you could say. The sounds you may be hearing that are like the bloop bloop sounds. The Easter Bunny got the kids walkie-talkies. The Easter Bunny may or may not regret doing that. Yeah, I totally went over on that side. But that's okay. We will come back over this, and we will yeah, I'll have to come back over the brown part and touch it up because that is rough. Someday for these live stream things, my envisioned hope for these would be that it would be a bunch of people, right? And I mean, which I guess maybe that's stating the obvious. I don't know of many people with tons of followers that are going, I just want to live stream out and have no one watch it. So I guess that's probably a duh kind of thing. But still, People prank calling on the walkie-talkies. Oh, to be a child. Yeah, so I think this is coming along pretty nicely. I definitely am seeing places that I wish I would have. I wish I would have spot fill puttied a bit better. That's still a skill. That's still a skill that I'm trying to really focus on. Is being able to spot fill stuff, make it look both like well done, but also high enough in coverage. I should probably. Just kidding, not done with the silver yet. Whoop! Oh boy! Oh boy! I will say, it's kind of interesting with this. I mean, anyone that looks at the timestamp will realize this was filmed during the whole COVID-19 coronavirus thing. And I actually got a shotgun microphone like, I don't know, a week or two before all this stuff kind of started going down. And I bought it with the intent that I would use it in my video production, and it's been interesting that I've used it mostly for video conferencing. The again, I'm sure you're hearing kids right now. I'm not loving that, but every other microphone I have, I assure you, would be picking up that and like room echo and all that stuff way more. This is a Deity S Mic 2S, and it really does a rather splendid job rejecting off-axis sound. So, kind of cool. Okay, so let's look at that. Gotta get a bit more up here. Yeah, it's hard to get these like small pieces with this because I'm never sure if I'm painting a highlight or if I'm painting like actual like mist spot. I think I'm painting highlight, but or like misspot, I mean, but I'm not sure. So we get this going here, right? So that's looking pretty decent, right? That's looking pretty decent. I'm going to have a discussion with our live studio audience here. 1 second. My kingdom for something. Oh, hey, we have 2 people in here now. Well, I don't know who you are, but I have a very specific set of skills. I will recognize you, and I will say thank you for chatting. It was my best Liam Neeson I could do at such short notice. Please forgive me. I watched that movie again today, Taken, and I remember watching it first going like, yeah, like what a cool movie. I watched it today and I was highly disappointed with the gunplay. I realize heroic stories, right? There's a bit of suspension of disbelief, and you gotta think of like the hero being the hero, and okay, totally get it. But there was like Liam Neeson was making these like long distance pistol shots, and other people with machine guns who were firing, like 10 times the amount of rounds that he did, missed like every single time. And we're not talking like 400-yard shots. We're talking like down a hallway on a small riverboat. So it's just stuff like that where it's just like, okay. Note to self, when I finally get to do my big movie debut or whatever, I'm going to make sure I don't even know what it'd be, but if it has guns and it has gunplay, you can bet your buttocks that it's going to have realistic gunplay. Instead of this like, oh, the hero is never going to get hit by anything. Except for the occasional like, oh, okay, he got punched in the arm or something, so truly our hero bleeds. He's an everyman. It's like, no, he's not. My word. So it was funny. I hope it just means that I'm now a more discerning like film buff or something. And now I'm all swanky and fancy. So I'm just trying to go back over this black, make it a bit darker. Looking at the actual prop mask that Immortan Joe wears, this whole metal piece up here looks like it's probably one piece, and it actually does have like a recess that, for all I know, they painted black to give it more depth, but I'm assuming they actually have, like, instead of just painting it black, right? All the Rolling Stones style. I'm sure they actually had a piece. So it's looking okay. I may still need to go over it with silver again, but that is That is the cross we bear, the life we lead. Yeah. I suppose since this brush was lended to me by my friend Alan, and I still haven't given it back to him, we'll just call him the sponsor of our video today. Just kidding. Advertising space available for purchase. Okay. So that gets us, right? That gets us a little bit more black up there, a little bit more consistent. It's a little flat right now. I don't know. Going for this brass stuff up here. Yeah, I think we're gonna do it. I kind of want to save the teeth for last, for whatever reason. So this is where we're gonna. It's like a bronzy kind of look. Yeah, that's pretty brassy looking. That's like super gold. So I think we're gonna use this color, which is a antique gold. But I think we're going to, yeah, we're gonna like do this and then go over it with some brown when we get done. Probably kind of a brown wash, and I think that'll be enough to dull it down and kind of give it almost a leathery kind of look. Because right now it's going to look a bit strange. Especially with that tan under there, which the reason why I went with a tan primer coat was because a lighter color primer seems to do better to make lighter colors pop. And while obviously we didn't have light color for some of this we did. And so being able to have that when you need it, because you can always go darker. It is tough to go lighter without just working with very opaque paint or having to do like a ton of layers. So now it's starting to, I mean, we got a ways to go. Says the guy who was just talking about how cool it was to start with the light primer. Well, you can't win them all. This primer coat doesn't amount to a hill of beans in this paint job, Elsa. Yeah. Oh, I may have gone a little bit on the back there. Womp womp. I suppose some of these spots will be less visible from the front. But I don't know, that always feels so lazy to just, like, obviously the inside of the mask, right? The inside won't be seen, but this this back rim right here, just thinking that this would be a lazy spot not to give some attention to. Oh man, look at that shaking hand. That's some crazy shaking hand. would be particularly interesting to know if George Miller, when inventing all the backstory for Immortan Joe, which he is known for making very elaborate backstories. So it'd be cool to know if like every piece of this mask had some sort of an homage, a piece, a reason, a something. I don't know, just because it'd be interesting. Be interesting to know. I'm pretty sure viewers at home, if you've gotten this far, definitely like send me an email and I'll send you a candy bar, because what are we an hour 37 minutes into it. I suppose that's the other thing, the other reason why I like painting is that I can kind of get lost in it, and call it ADD, call it, whatever you want to, but I got it. And it is tough for me to stick with one thing. I'm going to rest this down like this. Whew. It is tough for me to stick with one thing. Like, really for anything. So when I find one thing that I can like enjoy doing and enjoy doing it for this long, that is, I like that. That's great. Okay. Actually, I think that is looking pretty decent. If we hit it with some brown, I think it will darken right up. But it'll have to be like a brown wash. In my little paint case over here, I actually have some what I like to call fancier paints. And by fancier, I just mean like they're Citadel paints by a company named Games Workshop, and they're meant for Warhammer 40k, and like mainly I got it because there was a nice guy at the comic store when I was like, how do I print stuff? And he was like, oh, you should try this. And he even at the time, the figure I was painting, he even had like specific recommendations, and so I was all too happy to take his recommendations. But then I kind of fell in love with the paint line, and being able to look up online and see other people's work and see the step by step, and then get paint. I don't think that's a good long-term solution. Obviously, I think part of painting is learning to mix your own colors. Again, that color theory, that's really important. But anyhow, I've got a nice like brownish kind of wash that I think will go really well on this. I'm going to give it just give it a smidge of something. Whatever it needs, it'll give it to it. Nice. So I think that's looking not too bad. Not too bad at all. So, well, I guess we wait for... Bam. Sometimes that happens. But we got a little secret. We're going to carefully, so carefully, in fact, I'm going to use some, there we go, some gel, super glue. We're going to just smear it just a little bit. Around there. These are super cheap paintbrushes, but still they're my paintbrushes, and so I want them to at least stay working. When I watch some of these shows where people will spend like $40 on a paintbrush, and then they'll talk about how like that's a good bargain. I fully recognize that maybe I'm just a plebeian fool, but I don't know if I believe that. And it's probably because I don't really... So we're going to try to touch up these teeth a little bit more in the middle. Make sure we got all the black down here that we want. Because we're going to come through here in a bit with some sort of brown. But before we go through that, we have to go through and touch up the teeth. That is the other advantage of using this. This is a Citadel Games primer. It's called Wraithbone, which all their paint colors are ridiculous sounding. Maybe it's less ridiculous if you're like 16, or less ridiculous sounding if you're like just happen to be a frontman for a Norwegian death metal group. But if you're both like I am, I don't know what to tell you. Cut it out. No. I'm not exactly sure what to do over here on the edge. Like, I kind of want it to like just transition and fade. Just kind of, I don't know. That might have to be fixed later on, but we shall at least go on right now as if it's all good. Yeah, I don't know. I think that'll be good enough. This is where it'll get a little tricky. Well, it won't be too tricky. It won't be too tricky. We've got the handy dandy same Wraithbone shade. Or not shade, but whatever thingamabobber this is. And we're going to use a nice, well, so they come in these little pots, right? And we're going to just use a little bit of this and try to touch up and thankfully we don't have to touch up a ton. That's too much touch up. That might actually work. Again, because we're painting like funky, irregular horse teeth. The reason why I want to get all these teeth defined, right, and kind of like carved back from like the black and the brown, is because I want to put yellow on them. Well, and yellow. I actually don't think it's yellow. I think it's more going to be like a tan or a brown themselves. So because of that, I actually don't know how critical it is to like truly make sure we like go, you know, all the way, like redoing every little jot and tittle, just because I think these are going to be kind of irregular and funky shaped anyhow. And kind of a funky hue once we and because like they're supposed to be right, there's supposed to be like this like gross mess kind of creeping up from the, again, what we're just going to call the gum line. Obviously if you have to have your teeth bolted in, you can officially say that that's not your gum line. But yeah. So a little bit heavy, but I really am thinking I'm gonna like wash, and then wash. Oh, sorry, wash, and then like, I don't know, try to drip it in there that way or something. Let's bring up our inspiration picture one more time here. Bam. And so if we look at this, let me get my pointer out, right? We got these like really yellowy and almost like these like brown, kind of like things ain't going well in the Immortan Joe horse teeth, whatever. And so I think for that, let's look again at the Citadel paints, because we got this like nasty looking contrast color. That might actually, yeah, that might actually look really nice. And then this was like the flesh shade thing that I was thinking like, that's a bit red. This might contrast. Yeah, we'll have to see. Because this is more like a like, right? Like, I mean, we can even like pop this open. Yeah, this is more of like a yellowy, right? Kind of a yellowy kind of, and holding that up next to that, that just doesn't look like what we're looking for. So if we shake this up, yeah, right, especially if we like look at the lid, right, like that looks like that might get us in the ballpark. And so we're going to here, let's move Immortan off to the side here. Let's hold this up. Then let's just go for it. Right? Kind of a it's like I want more watered down. Put some of this down here. Just add some of our like gross gray water. See if I can like water it down. Then it's almost like I just want to like just dry brush it on there. Because this is a bit like it's definitely in the ballpark. It's definitely in the ballpark, but we need, it's like we need a, well, here. Maybe it's this, then some black. Maybe we do want to go with this because it is more of a brown kind of thing. So let's just experiment a little bit. Oh yeah, that's gonna nail it. Yeah, check that out. Right, and we can just like apply this like kind of spottily. Which this is still a bit too light, but I think we can kind of like go over this a little bit, right? And this will, like, we can kind of take this down to like past the teeth, down to like the jawline, the gums, I guess. It's almost like I'd like to like pull this down here. That may be a mistake, but I'm I'm willing to kind of take a bet here with a little bit of like surface tension. Kind of let it just like sag and run a bit down here, because that'll help. It'll help give it this like grody kind of like misshapen kind of feel to it. Yeah, and by letting it kind of pool, right? Or do this with these teeth, right? Like let it kind of like pool in these long streaks on top. Kind of go like that. And then once you here, let me dry it off a little bit. Okay, so now that it's dried off a little bit, right, we have these kind of streaks up here that we can kind of like, oh yeah, right? Now it kind of has that like pit cavity tooth thing going on. Yeah, that looks great. I am pleased with that. I will fully admit that was a bit of a happy accident. We're going to kind of get our brush a little bit wet here. A little bit wet. Yeah, a little bit wet. And then kind of like streak off some of this stuff. Okay. Yeah. It's got a nice look to it. Nice being, you know, grody. So what? I'm still thinking we need to go over this. It's probably still a bit too bright, and so we probably need to go over it with a bit of make sure my pot's all the way sealed. Probably gonna go this is the running joke of the painting community that Nuln Oil, again, who knows what that name is about, but the Nuln Oil here will help kind of darken this up, and that's also what we'll take along the top here to kind of like dull it out. Then, so we do need a bit more of this brown. That brown is not going to be usable. I don't know. It might. Nice. That's like painting with chocolate. Might actually work for a dry brush kind of effect there. Yeah, that's not too bad. Yeah, let's see. And we did want to go over this with a bit of Nuln Oil to brown it up. Yeah, let's try that out. Yeah. this is where we won't want it to pool as much. And so we'll use the tip of our brush to kind of like soak it up a little bit. Just make sure it's not pooling in some way that is gonna dry there and kind of like leave that weird like coffee stain kind of darkness to it. Yeah, I think that darkened up rather nicely. Probably could do with a dose more of that, but maybe we just go crazy and we use this like black wash, right? This Nuln Oil, and we see what we can see. Let's try that out. Because we're at 2 hours and 7 minutes, people. We're gonna get crazy. We're going to get crazy. I'm going to use a bigger brush, make sure we're dry, and well, I want to go for a little bit cleaner. Then we'll make sure we're dry. Yeah, so this is a decently subtle kind of effect here. We'll put it in the middle as well, just to kind of make sure we get kind of an even soaking of this stuff. But the goal here is to kind of just bathe everything in it and get a darker, right? And it's subtle, right? Like I said, you might bring out like the screw heads and and I've definitely realized that it's a lot more subtle on like this metallic color. And again, I'm sure there's a color theory reason for that I just don't know. Oop. We're about losing the camera here. Yeah, so as we go a bit heavier on it, right, we start to get it to be less subtle and more of this kind of like, deep, dark, kind of grungy, mungy, metallic kind of thing. That's good. That's exactly what we want. Right? We want this kind of munge and grunge. Are we dry enough up there? Yeah, we might be dry enough up there. I'm going to try a bit of munge and grunge up here just to darken it up just a little bit. Be careful up here because we did just paint that and did not give it enough time to dry. So, and then I'm trying to also go over it again just to collect any places that it pooled, and kind of like wipe it off there, right? Because we don't want it, we don't really want it pooling. At least not in the, unless like specifically, you know, we left it there to pool. So, boo. Let's see here. Close. I promise I purchased this silly thing. So now it's got to show me stuff. Trial. More like a trial of my faith. Cool. Okay. So let's dry this thing off. Yeah, I guess we're probably not as dry as, I don't know. I mean, let's observe that so far, right? Like, that's looking pretty legit. Clearly these holes, I'm not exactly sure what I want to do with these holes. I think if I go like crazy big time on this, you know, this costume piece, prop piece, I would get some like old like Russian surplus gas mask tubes, right, with those like ribbing kind of things, and somehow attach it there. So at least right now, as maybe I should paint it silver like the rest of them. I don't know, right? I mean, if you look at like, if you look here at right, we can clearly see that like Immortans, right, we can hold up next to here, see that like he's got this like silver kind of, you know, metallic bracket things. So I'm not really sure on that one. I may wait a little bit on that. Down here, I think that it would be good to have this dry brushed with a lighter color. You can see over here where it's kind of accentuating some of this like chin bone kind of stuff that like similarly there's some great detail here that it would be sad just to like leave that. I just don't know if I have the patience to sit here and and wait for it to dry. Because again, if you've gotten this far, please send me a message. I will flip and mail you a Snickers candy bar or whatever candy bar you like. Because if you're going this far, you're a Neil Oler super fan. Yeah, it's almost like a gray. Almost like a. Where's my. Yeah, that might be a little bit better. Let me switch scenes here. All right, so we got a little bit more detail. I went over that with a little bit of silver. It's a little bit much there. I think we can tone it down, bring it back with just a little bit of that's probably a little better. Right, and then I still want to try some of this Nuln Oil on the teeth. Because, yeah, that was kind of my worry, is that, like, does it darken it up too much? But maybe we want that kind of on, like, the edges. Kind of leave almost like a natural highlight on the middle. It's like it doesn't quite have enough like gradient, so it looks a little off. It looks like a little cartoonish, like it needs something a bit lighter to go from like the supposed black to like the edge of the tooth, right, to give it a bit more pop there. And again, we may be able to get away with that if we, instead of doing some pop, instead we give just a little bit of this white bone shade just in the middle of the tooth. I don't know. It'd be better if the tooth itself, right, was uneven and had like jaggedness to it, but that's kind of like what you get with the model. So, meh. As far as, I don't know. There's probably some stuff to touch up around the edges, right? Like right there. Sorry. Right there, you can see that we went a little bit over. But all in all, I would say this thing was a success. We can simply test it out, right? That's it. Who looks grotesque. So this is probably a fine time to sign off. This is Neil Oler. Thank you for joining me on the Fury Road, and yeah, remember, enjoy what you do, because you can't always do what you enjoy, but slow and steady paints the mask. So thanks for joining me. I'll catch you next time.